funny that Brother Ben says that because when I first started soul winning every day for after camp, I would always be at Walmart, and I actually worked at Walmart, and I would witness to people on the job and never got caught one time. I only got caught one time soul winning at Walmart, and it was in a different state, so I just listened to the guy and I left. But they never get me at Walmart. I guess I'm pretty sneaky, so. Think, how can this help me? But I wrote this sermon a while back, and as I wrote this sermon, it just kept convicting me, and out of all the sermons I've ever wrote in my entire life, I know for a fact that this sermon has impacted my life more than any other sermon I've ever preached. That might not be the case for you after I preach it, but for me, I felt like, God wants me to preach this lesson because of how it impacted me in my life, and I hope it can do the same for you. Amen. In Acts chapter 16, verse 27, it says, "And the keeper of the prison awakening out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, 'Do thyself no harm, for we are all here.' Then he called for a light and sprang in, and came trembling, and fell down before Paul and Silas, and brought them out, and said, 'Sirs, what must I do to be saved?' And they said, 'Believe in the Lord Jesus, and thou shalt be saved, and thy house.'" I'm going to read a couple more passages in different areas, so you don't have to worry about turning there. But this is showing Paul caring for people. So this first person that we see is Paul is caring for the lost. He cares for the prison guard. If we look in Philippians 1, 3 through 6, I'll read it. You don't have to turn there. It says, "I thank my God upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine, for you all making requests with joy, for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ." That's Paul caring for the church of Philippi. We see in Romans chapter 1, verse 7 through 12, it says, "To all that be in Rome, beloved of God, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. First I thank my God through Jesus Christ for all of you, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers, make a request, if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end that ye may be established. That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me." So that's Paul writing to the church of Romans. And then we see in 1 Thessalonians, Paul writing to the church of Thessalonica, he says, "We give thanks to God always for you, making mention of you in our prayers, remembering without ceasing your faith and labor of love and patience of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ in the sight of God our Father." So we see that in that section that Paul is caring for the churches. So the first one we see, Paul is caring for the prisoner guard, he's caring for the lost, he's caring for the churches, and then we see that Paul cares for the individuals. In 2 Timothy 1, 1 through 4, it says, "Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, by the will of God, according to the promise of the life which is in Jesus Christ, to Timothy, my dearly beloved son, grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father and Christ Jesus our Lord. Thank God, whom I serve from my forefathers with pure conscience, that without ceasing I have remembrance of thee in my prayers night and day, greatly desire to see thee, being mindful of my tears, that I may be filled with joy. For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but power and of love and of sound mind." And last one, it says in Philemon 1, 4 through 5, "Paul, a prisoner of Jesus Christ, and Timothy our brother, unto Philemon our dearly beloved and fellow laborer, I thank my God, making mention of thee always in my prayers, hearing of thy love and faith, which thou hast toward the Lord Jesus, and toward all of our saints." I know it's a lot of verses, but in those different passages, we're seeing that Paul cares for people. We see he cares for the prison guard. He cares for the prison guard. He's not lost. He sees the prison guard saved. We see that he cares for these different churches, these different ministries that he's involved in. He's writing to them. He says, I'm praying for you. I care for you. He's encouraging them. He's giving them guidance. And he's doing that over and over again. And that's why I wanted these verses. Boom, 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 boom. And then we see he's caring for the individuals, and he cares for many, but we see that he's caring for Philemon, and he's caring for Timothy. And he says, I love you. Every day I remember you in my prayers. I'm happy to serve with you. I'm glad to be a part of your life. And we see that he loves those people. Paul cared for many different people. And in my life, I can think back and I see the many people that loved me and cared for me like we see like Paul did. I have many Pauls in my life. I had many people that took me under their wing, and I'm going to give you some examples when I was younger. But I have so many people that just said, you know what? One day they must have decided that I'm going to care about little Kurt. I'm going to care about him. I'm going to invest in his life. I'm going to take him places with me. I'm going to do things for him because I want little Kurt to turn out. These people that I'm going to mention their name, you're not going to know who they are. They're all from New Mexico, but the first person I have on my list of Paul in my life, someone that cared for me in my life, was a guy named Jimmy Flanagan. And it's funny because me and my wife, we always joke. She says she remembers everything from like literally 2 weeks old. She's like, I remember when I was 3 months old, this happened. I'm like, I can't remember before 5th grade. But this guy, Jimmy Flanagan, I knew him well before 5th grade. And somehow I remember him. I really don't remember a lot, but I remember this guy. And he would take me out to eat. He would take me to go places. He would invest in my life. I remember he took me to Dunkin' Donuts one time. He took me to a breakfast place one time. And he did a lot of things to care for me. He didn't have to do it, but he cared for me. He invested in my life. I think about a guy and his wife, Pam and Tony Hughes. He passed away when I was maybe 12 years old, and it was a really bad experience for me or for anyone that knew him. But he invested so much in my life, and I remember they bought me a Bible. They put my name in that Bible. They put the date. They put, we love you, keep growing in Christ. And I'll never forget that. They bought me the little highlighters to highlight the Bible, and they told me, give me a little notebook to write my church notes. And they invested in my life. They weren't my parents. They didn't get paid to do it. Hopefully my parents didn't pay them to do it. But they did it because they loved me and they cared about me. They invested in my life. I think about a guy in our church who was a teenager when I was younger, and he invested in my life, Jeremy Lenentine. He would take me out soloing with him. He would take me to do things with him. He was just a teen and I was just a young boy, but he cared about me and he invested in my life. I think about a guy and his wife, Dick and Marty Heinzelman, and this guy owned a farm, and he was kind of I don't know, he wasn't mean, but he was a different kind of guy, he wasn't very nice, but I could tell out of all the people I've ever met that he loved me, and he taught me how to have respect, he taught me how to work hard, he taught me a lot, and he passed away, but I'll never forget the time and effort that man invested in my life as a young boy, and I can still look back 20 plus years and think, man, that guy really cared about me, that guy really loved me, that guy and his wife, they really invested into my life. I think of a man named Rick Pope, and it's sad because all of these people have passed away, but I remember this guy named Rick Pope. Every time I would see him at church, he would say, hey, Cletus. I don't know why he called me that, but that was his nickname for me. And he'll give me like a little noogie, and he'll wrap me up, and he loved me. And every time I saw him, he would smile, and he'd be so excited to see me, and he knew who I was, and he loved me, and he cared for me. A lady named Renee Kenny. She used to always take me to her house, and she had some kids too, and she would take us to her house and let us play video games, and she was my Sunday school teacher. She taught me a lot, and she did a lot for me. And the reason I'm saying is this: these people made a difference in my life. These people made a difference in the Christian that I am today because they invested in my life way back when, and because they cared about me. These people made a huge difference in my life, and I'll never forget that. And you know what? We need to be caring for other people. And I look at Paul's life and I see, man, he cared about people. He was a Paul to many people. I think these are all the Pauls that I had in my life. These are all the people that cared about me. These are all the people that took time like Paul did. And they said, hey, Kurt, I'm praying for you. Hey, Kurt, I love you. Hey, Kurt, here's a gift. Hey, Kurt, here's something. You know, it reminds me of Mila. She's giving all those kids candy.
Yeah.
In 20 years, those kids are going to remember Mila.
Sure.
They're going to remember, hey, that lady, she used to always give me candy. Really. Now, don't give my daughter any candy. Don't let her eat it. But they're going to remember Mila. They're going to remember that Mila cared about them. And every time they come to church, she's saying their name and she's giving them candy. And she's caring for those people just like Paul. You know what? We need more people like Paul. But the problem is we have a lot of people that are looking for a Paul. The first point I have is, you know what? Stop looking for a Paul. As much as you might need a Paul, and as much as I needed a Paul, we have churches that are full of people that are looking for a Paul. They want someone to care for them, like I was cared for, right? They want someone to care for them. They want someone to make a visit to their house. They want someone to drop off a card for them. They want someone to call them. They want someone to remember their birthday, you know, write on their Facebook page on their birthday. They want all that. And they're looking for a Paul. They're looking for someone to care for them, but they're not looking for anyone to care for. And it's a selfish way, but unfortunately we have a lot of churches full of selfish people, and we all want the care, but we don't want to give the care.
Amen.
And we're all trying to get the care from one person, most churches also. You know, I hear a lot of, you know, with politics nowadays and Facebook and all the media, you see a lot of it, but I hear on either in Facebook or in person, I see a lot of Christians, you know, they want to talk about welfare. You know, oh, welfare, the system is broken. People are just taking advantage. People just want to take. And maybe that's the case, but the sad thing is, I think, you know what, we have a lot of welfare Christians. We come to church and all we want to do is take, get. And we want to get, and we never want to give. We never want to give back. And we have a bunch of Christians that are just taking advantage of the church and getting everything that the pastor gives them, but when it's time to give back, they don't want to have a part of it. That's why on Sunday morning, this place is full. Because those are the ones that want to get it, right? But this group, hopefully we're the givers also. But we have churches full of people that want to get, and they don't want to give. We have churches full of leeches. We have churches full of leeches just taking all the care, and they're getting all the care they can from the pastor, not leaving the pastor to talk to anyone else, and they're getting everything they can from their Sunday school teachers, but they're not contributing at all. They're not giving back to the church. You know, it's kind of sad that that's how it is, but we think we need care, so we don't give any care to anyone else. We just take. We need Christians to stop looking for a Paul, stop looking for what others can do for you, and think about what you can do for others. Stop thinking about, well, can the pastor help me in this area? And think, how can I help someone else in the church? And trust me, we need people. And true Christianity, I think, happens when we realize that it's not all about us.
Amen.
When we realize that, you know what, church, we don't just come to church to get what we need, to get fed, and then just forget about everyone else. But true Christianity will happen when we learn that it's really about others. As a staff member and at my church, everyone else on the staff is part of the pastor's family. I'm the only one that's like a non-pastor family person. So, you know, if they're going to talk bad about the staff, I'm going to hear it because I'm not related to them. And I hear some people say, well, I just don't like this, and I don't like that, and I have a problem with this. And I think, man, every time you talk, all I hear is I. And if you weren't worried so much about your own problems, and if you weren't worried so much about yourself, you might actually enjoy church. When you're caring for others, when you're doing things for others, you're not worried about yourself. When you're investing in other people's life, you're going to be a happy church member. But when all you think about is yourself and how can the church do this for me and how can I get more, you're going to be a sad church member.
Yeah, that's right.
So my first point was stop looking for a Paul. And once you stop looking for a Paul, you can move on to this one. But start looking for a prison guard. Start looking for a prison guard. We see that Paul, in this situation, there was a prison guard, and he led that prison guard to the Lord. But if you look at that story, it's kind of funny that Paul risked his freedom to see that person saved. He could have that guy was about to kill himself because Paul was going to escape. Paul could have just taken off and said, I don't care about this prison guard. If he goes to heaven or hell, I want to have my freedom.
That's right.
But he cared more about the prison guard than his own personal freedom, and he risked his freedom to witness to that person. You know what? Are we looking for a prison guard in our life? Are we looking for the lost? I see on the board over there, and I don't know if it's updated, but it says one salvation last week. If we're really looking for a prison guard, we'll have a couple more numbers next week, won't we? We'll have a couple more people saved, because if you go out, they'll get saved.
Amen.
I think I heard Brother Chris saw someone saved yesterday, and he's out there reaching them, but we need to be reaching the lost. We need to care more about the souls than we do about ourselves. It's easy to say, oh, I care about people getting saved. You know, if I ask you, everyone's going to say it. I'll say it. We care about people getting saved, but what does the soul winning attendance tell us? In my church, you know, we used to say, oh, we're a soul winning church. We really care about the church. And I asked one of the guys, how many people in our church go soul winning? He said less than 10%. That's at my church. I don't know here. I said, well, are we really even a soul winning church? Do we really care about souls if no one's going soul winning? We'll say we do, but do our actions show that? Are we looking for a prison guard? I hope that, you know, when I worked here, however many years ago, time goes by fast, but when I worked here however long ago, you know, there used to be a lot of people on the bus when we went out soul winning. There used to be a lot of kids going out soul winning, a lot of teens going out soul winning, a lot of adults going out soul winning. I don't know what it's like now, but I hope it's the same. Because as a church out here, this is one of the very few churches that probably actually do go soul winning, and I hope you're a part of that. We need to find a prison guard. Don't care too much about yourself that you're afraid to give up some time on Saturday to go soul winning. What's more important, your Saturday? Paul was willing to risk his whole entire life, all of his freedom, to see only one person saved. Yeah, we're not willing to give up a couple hours on Saturday to go soul winning. 1 hour to go soul winning, 30 minutes to go soul winning, 10 minutes to go soul winning, 5 seconds to pass out a tract. We need to care and look for a prison guard. We need to be caring about the lost. We see that Paul cares about the lost, and we need to care about the lost. Once you stop looking for a Paul, you can start looking for a prison guard, and then you can start looking for a Philippi. Paul cared about the churches. Paul was ministering to these churches. These were Paul's ministries, and he was writing them letters, and he was caring for them. And I think of that as, you know, that's Paul caring for his ministry. And what ministry are you in? I don't know. But Paul cared about his ministries. He stopped looking what he can do for himself, and he started caring about other people. And I think Baptist churches, we're really in need of people caring for ministries. I look at that wall again, Ryan, not to just keep talking about the wall, but I remember when I was here, there was more than 3 buses. That's right, preacher, right? There was more than 3 buses when I was here. That means that some people aren't caring about the ministry like they used to be. And we need some people to take a step up and care for the ministry. Baptist churches, we have people that maybe they have a ministry, but they don't truly care about that ministry. I oversee the children's ministry in my church, and I see the Sunday school teachers that care about their ministry, and then I see the Sunday school teachers that don't care about it. They still do it, but they don't care about it. You know, we have bus ministry at our church, and I see some of the bus workers, they're just yelling at the kids, and they're just doing it, and they just try to get through the whole Sunday and pick up the kids and drop off the kids and get their job done. And I wouldn't want to be a bus kid on that route, right? Who's caring for those kids? They're getting picked up, but who's caring for those kids? I see the teachers that show up late. They probably just read the lesson, they give the lesson, and they're out of there. Who's caring for those kids? You know, if you're just, I don't know who's all a Sunday school teacher or anything like that, but if you're a Sunday school teacher, whether you teach adults or kids, and you just teach the lesson and you finish, you're not even a Sunday school teacher. You know, who's caring for that class if all that you're doing is just teaching the lesson? We need teachers who actually care about the people, teachers who are willing to visit the people, teachers who are willing to love the people. I don't remember people that taught me a lesson. If I think back 15 years, 20 years, the people I remember aren't the ones that just sat in a class and taught me a lesson. That's actually not even really what I remember about any of them. I remember, man, they took me out somewhere. They invested in me when I wasn't at church. They gave me a gift. They gave me a Bible. They did this with me. They did that with me. It wasn't in a little classroom where they taught me about Jonah, where they taught me about Noah, and that's good to do. But those people taught me, and they invested in my life, not just in the Sunday school class. You know, if we do a ministry, whatever ministry it is, and all it is a favor to the pastor, and I've had many conversations with my pastor saying, you know what, we don't want people in a ministry if they're doing us a favor. Because those people actually end up hurting us more in the long run anyways. But your Sunday school class is not a favor to the pastor. That should be a ministry where you're caring and you're loving those people and you're investing in those people's life. And we need people to care more about the ministry. It's kind of sad that we have a lot of people that care about the ministry. We have a lot of people that care about the bus kids, but they only care about the bus kids when they run through the hall and almost knock us over. Or we care about the teens when they're over there chatting around and we can't hear the sermon because they're messing around. We don't care enough to help out. We don't care enough to go sit over there with them, but we care about them then. Oh, we care about the bus route when a lot of the money from the church is going to the bus routes, but we don't care enough to get on the bus route and help. It's sad that we care about these ministries when they hurt us, but we don't care about helping those kids. I'll give you an interesting fact. I was looking at those kids over there. There was about 18 kids over there. I saw a post that someone posted on Facebook that if both of your parents don't go to church and you go to church, you have a 3% chance of making it in that church, of serving God. 3% chance. Hopefully those kids have a little higher percent chance because they have a church like this that cares about them. But a 3% chance. I think it said if the mom doesn't go to church, or if the dad doesn't go to church, they have a 15% chance. And if both parents go to church, or if the dad goes to church, 55, and if both parents, 75 or something like that. But I thought, you know what, that 3%, that's those kids right there, whose parents don't go to church. Hopefully we care enough about them to raise that percentage a little higher that they have a chance to make it. We need people that are caring about the ministry, that are trying to find a ministry. There's some room for a bus route.
Amen.
There's some room for a worker, because I see those 3 names. I guarantee you half those people are working that route by themselves. If it's anything like my church, I was working a route by myself for years. I needed help, but not a lot of people want to care about the bus kids, right? We need people to care about the ministry, to get involved. I don't know what ministries you have here, but there's a lot of bases here. That's a ministry that needs people to be involved in.
Yeah.
There's some nursing homes. A lot of people don't care about the nursing homes, but when your parents are of age, you'll probably start caring about the nursing homes, right? You'll want someone to go preach to them, someone to go minister to them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ministries, and I know this church has tons of ministries that you can get involved in, and people that need you. Then I said, start looking for a Philemon. This one, you know what? We see that Paul cared about Timothy. Paul cared about Philemon. He's telling him, look, I'm praying for you. I care about you. I love you. I want you to make it. Paul cared for those people. I'm so glad that in my life, I had people that cared about me. More than my dad. I didn't mention my dad out of all those people. I didn't mention my pastor out of all those people. I didn't mention the staff out of all those people. Those were laymen. Those people that I listed, they were you. Well, that's your own staff, they weren't you. But you know what? They were just people like you. Just people that went to church. They didn't get paid by the church. They didn't have a name at the church. They just attended the church. But 20 years later, I remember who they are because of the impact they made on my life. I hope to God that in 20 years from now, someone could get up and say the same thing about you.
Yeah.
Some little kid that, who knows how old they are now, they could get up here and they could say, oh, I remember Brother Ladner. He loved me so much. He took me to his farm and he cared about me. And I think you will have people like that. I remember when I was out here just for a short time, Brother Ladner really helped me, and he would feed me on Saturdays when I was on the bus route, and he really cared for me. But I hope there's a lot of people in this church that they could stand where I'm standing in 20 years and say your name because you cared about them.
Good.
In this room, I don't know if you were thinking, but if you could think about the different Pauls that you have in your life, if you could think about maybe people in this room that care about you, and not people that just, say hi to you at church, not people that tell you, give you a note at church, but someone that visits you at your house, someone that visits you when you're in the hospital that's not the pastor, someone that calls you on your birthday, that calls you and sees how you're doing if you're sick. I wonder how many of you, if you thought about your Pauls, if it would be someone else in this room. And I wonder if we had everyone write down, and I won't have you do it, but if we had everyone write down the Pauls in your life, if you're in this room, would anyone else write your name down? Would anyone else think, well, this person cares about me outside of church. This person really cares about me. They're a really good person. I don't know if they would or not. I could think of some people that have really, even the short time that I've been here, that have been a big blessing to Preacher and his wife, and they need a Paul too. And I could think of some names that they would write down. But would someone write down your name? Would someone think of you as a Paul in their life? Are you investing in anyone's life? Are you investing in anyone here? Do you know most of these people's names? Now, I don't know most of the names. But do you know, if you looked around, when's the last time you wrote a card to someone else in this church? When's the last time you made a visit to someone else in this church? The pastor can't do it all. The pastor, it shouldn't just rely on the pastor, but we should have a church caring for each other. We should have a church. Paul wasn't their pastor. They had their own church. They were the pastor. Paul was caring for them and their church. He was helping them. We need people to help our pastor to care for the other people in this church. I hear this now that I'm getting older, 30. But, when I was younger, I would always hear, oh yeah, when they're 18, they leave the church. When they're 18, they leave the church. Why? What's this thing with Baptist people? Why do they turn 18 and leave the church? And I think I figured it out. I think they leave the church when they turn 18. I think your kids leave the church when they turn 18 because they didn't have a Paul in their life. They were a Philemon in need of a Paul, and they didn't have one. They went through their life, and they never really had anyone care about them. If we brought these kids back in and we had all of them, 18 of them, stand up here and we said, all right, let's name off these kids. How many of those 18 kids would you know their name? You say, oh, well, I don't work with the teens. Well, you should, right? How many of those 18 do you know? It would probably be embarrassing if we brought them up and I said, okay, name this one, next. You probably don't know their names. So when they turn 18, why would they stay in a church when no one cares about them? Well, let's just look at it as adults. How many of adults in this room you don't know their name? Why would you stay in a church if no one knows your name? Why would you stay in a church if the pastor's the only person that cares about you? They don't. They leave. And we're going to keep seeing churches get smaller and smaller and kids leave when they turn 18 years old if we don't start caring about them, if we don't start investing in them. It's nice for me to come back and see Chris in church. Chris, did both your parents go to church? Did any of them? No? So you know what that tells me about Chris? He had some Pauls in his life. He was a Philemon, and he had some Pauls in his life. I'm guessing Johnny's one of the Pauls in his life. Someone invested in Chris's life, and now as a young man, he's married and in church, serving God. That doesn't happen when no one cares about you. That doesn't happen when you just go through church and no one knows your name. People know who Chris is. People cared about Chris. I think about my wife and her family. You know what? She had good parents, but I know a lot of preacher kids that had good parents that didn't make it. I know a lot of them. A ton of them that don't go to church, that don't care about church, and they had great parents. It can't just be on the parents. But you know why Julianne's still serving God? Because she had some Pauls in her life. You know why Johnny's still serving God? He had some Pauls in his life. Jackie, Jenny, they had Pauls in their life. And maybe a lot of you are their Pauls. But people, when you care about people, when you care about individuals, you can make a lifelong impact on those people's life. I know that if I had Julianne come up, she would list some of you guys as people that y'all, we're in Mississippi. Some of y'all, she would mention some of y'all and say, you know what, these people made an impact on my life. I know she cares about you. I know that you did something for her life because you cared about her. But now she's gone, now she's an adult, and you gotta find someone else, right? The preacher's kids are all moved on, you gotta care about someone else now. You gotta find the kid over here and start investing in their life. Because those kids right there, 3% chance. But Brother Ben, if you invest in one of them, that percentage goes up a little bit. You know, I got little Natalie in my church, and I need help with little Natalie. I need people to invest in Natalie. I need people to buy her a little Bible and give it to her and get her excited about God. I need someone to write her a little note and tell them that they love her. I need someone to take her out to eat. Like I mentioned before when I said I wrote this sermon and changed my life, I wrote this sermon a few months back, and when I wrote this sermon, I started getting more convicted to myself. I said, well, who am I helping? Who am I being a Paul to? And since I wrote this sermon, I've made a personal visit of someone in my church every single day for 3 months now. not because my church pays me, my pastor doesn't even know. I just go to someone's house, I drop off a card, I think about them, I pray about them, I think about who's hurting in my church, and I go drop off a card. Because when I wrote this sermon, I said, man, I need to be a Paul to my church. My pastor, he makes the visits. I don't care about the visits that he makes. What visits am I making? And I know I'm on staff, but I don't want my people to think, man, why did Kurt drop this off to me on Friday when Kurt's off on Friday? Because I care about them. I write them a note and I say, hey, I'm praying for this need. You know how they know that I really care about them? Because I know that they have that need. Because I know that they have this problem. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to care about my church, and I'm going to try to care about my church more than my pastor cares about my church. Now, my pastor really cares for my church, so it probably won't happen, but I'm going to try. And I said, you know what I say, oh, I care about the kids. When they turn 18, they leave. And then I started thinking, what kids do I invest in? I mean, I'm a teacher, and I love these kids, but I said, when am I doing something on my own time? Not as a paid staff member, but when am I really caring for these kids? So me and Julianne, we decided we're going to start taking the kids out to eat every single Sunday night. And since I wrote this sermon, every single Sunday night, I've taken a kid out to eat. And you know what's so funny? I get them. I'm cheap, okay? And everyone at my church, they know I'm cheap. And I say, you get $2, right? You get like nuggets and a drink, and that's it. No ordering a meal. You know, I love you, but we're going to keep it to $2. And I take these kids out to eat, and you wouldn't believe what nuggets and a drink would do for a kid. They think I took them to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm like, we're going to go to, they say, what, I said, you could even get an ice cream. And they get so excited, and I let them spill their ice cream in my car. But I started caring more about these kids, and just in 3 months of doing that, I've noticed that I'm making a difference in these people's life. When I write these cards to people, this one guy posted on Facebook, and I didn't even know he got the card. He never even said he got the card. I had to leave it on his card. And he put on Facebook, he said, I look at this card every single morning. It's such an encouragement to me. And all it said was, I'm glad to be your friend. I'm praying for you. Glad to see you in church. That's all it said. It took me 10 minutes to drive over there and drop it off. And he says, oh yeah, I read it every single morning on my way to work. It's such an encouragement. That's all. I think we all gotta, I'm not asking you to make a visit every day. You know, I work at a church and I should be doing more than that. But I am asking you, why don't you care about someone? Find a Philemon in this church and say, you know what? That person needs me. That person needs a card today. That person needs my prayer today. And I started taking it seriously when I say I pray for someone. It's easy to say you pray for someone, but I started saying, you know what? I prayed for you, and this is what I prayed for you for. And people know that I really prayed for them. I didn't just say some words. I really did pray for them. I really did care for them. I have a list of people. God just convicted me to do this too. But I had a list of people. I started saying, I'm going to pray for you every day, and I'm going to send you a message. And it started off with like 2 people. And every day I just remember, okay, I pray for these people. I send them a text message. Now it's like 15 people. It takes me like 12 minutes just to send a text message. I'm like, I pray for you and your family. I pray for you and your family. And I pray for those people. But you know what? If you look through those people's phone list, you could just scroll through the text messages every single day. I prayed for them. And they might not need it every day, but I know some days they probably read that and they're like, thank God that someone's praying for me. Thank God that someone cares about me. And I owe it to these people because I had people in my past do it for me. And I'm sure you're sitting here today because someone cared about you.
Right.
You're sitting here today because someone invested in your life, because someone prayed for you. And you're here today because of that. The least we can do is care for someone else. One thing I think about is oftentimes we think that our pastor doesn't need a Paul. Now, pastor had some Pauls in his life. Your preacher had some Pauls in his life. Papa was probably the biggest Paul in his life, his dad. But he had preachers that cared about him. He had people that cared about him. He had many people that invested in him so that now he could invest in you. But I realized over the time that pastors need Pauls. Pastors need people to care for them. When's the last time you dropped off a note at your pastor's house? Now I know this couple right here, last time I was in town, they dropped off a gift for him. So I know they're caring for their pastor. They're being a Paul. I think, did you give them that tire thing? It's on Facebook, right? You gave them that tire thing and you're caring for them. But are we caring for our pastor? I hear so many times at my church, man, the pastor forgot my birthday. The pastor forgot this. I said, Well, yeah, there's one pastor, and our church has like 500 plus on roll. Yeah, you forget sometimes. He does, and he has a full-time job on top of that. But then I asked him, well, when's the last time you dropped off a card for pastor? I remember when I dropped off a card for my pastor this year, he didn't know what to do. He was in his pajamas. I never even seen him in his pajamas. He opened the door in his pajamas and he's like, what are you doing? I said, hey, just want to drop off a card for you. It was awkward. It was literally awkward because he's probably never had someone drop off a card at his house. I said, Pastor, I love you. I care for you. But my pastor needs someone to be a Paul to him. My pastor staff needs a Paul. You know what? Chris Lee needs a Paul. Tyler needs a Paul. When's the last time those guys got a card from you? Because you know what? We all expect them to do it, right? You know, you get paid, you better give me a card. You get paid, you better visit me. You better be at church. You know, it's not always easy for staff to do all the stuff that they do too. They struggle just like everyone else. And they need a Paul. That's funny when you look at this, all the people that Paul was writing to, his individuals were all pastors. He was helping them with their churches. He was encouraging them because he knew it's hard. It's hard for a pastor. A pastor needs someone to care for them. As a staff member, when someone gives me a gift card for $5 to Starbucks, it's like, man, that's why I'm in it. I'm like, God, thank you, God. You know, I get a paycheck, but man, for some reason, a $5 gift card from someone thinking about me, it changes my week. Literally changes my week. I think, man, yeah, these people, they appreciate what I do for them. They care about me. When a student of mine gives me a little card that says you're the best teacher ever, I mean, I'm 30 years old, I shouldn't care, but it's like, yes, I'm doing it. These kids love me, they care about me. So next time, think about that. Think about who can you pick as a Paul in your life? Who in this church, you don't know their name. Get their name, remember their name, pray for them, and give them a card. And you know what, it's helped me a lot, because my church is pretty big, and there's a lot of people I don't know. But I don't show up to someone's door with a card if I don't know their name. Which means I gotta get their name, right? And I get their name, and I think about them, and I think about them, and I write their address down, I think about them, and I drop off that card, and it means a lot to those people. But there's people that I didn't know 3 months ago that I know now because I decided I'm gonna care for them. This isn't actually even in my notes, but the more I realized that I want to be a Paul to someone else, God gave me Pauls in my own life. Instead of me searching for a Paul, instead of me trying to find a Paul to be caring for me and to love me and to do stuff for me, I decided I'm not going to be looking for a Paul, I'm going to be a Paul. And when I decided to do that, God used the people that I was trying to be a Paul to, and he reversed it to make those people a Paul in my life. I have a friend, his name's actually Ian Paul, but he came to church and he's got those big nice earrings, you know, those gauges, and he's got a lot of tattoos. And I saw him and I said, you know what, I think, you know, me and this guy won't get along, and I want to be his friend. And I started talking to him, and we really got to be really close friends. I said, I want to be a Paul to this guy. I want to give him a note. I want to tell him I'm praying for him. He's on my prayer list. After church tonight, I'll text him. And I said, I want to help this guy. And I always try to help him, and you know what's funny? He always ends up helping me. He's a mechanic, so I always need a mechanic. And he ended up fixing like my car 3 or 4 times since I've known him. And I'm like, no, I want to pay you. I don't want your help, you know. And he's like, well, I'm at your house right now. I'll pop the hood, I'll look at it. And I was trying to be a Paul to him, and God in turn gave him to me as a Paul. And now I have that guy in my life, and he's a new Christian. He's been saved less than a year. But he's done a lot for me than a lot of Christians I've known my whole life. He's made a bigger impact and cared for me more than a lot of Christians I've known my whole life in that 1 year. And I didn't look for him to help me. I looked to help him, and God switched it around. There's another friend of mine, his name's Brandon Solwick, and he's in our church. And I saw him and his wife, and they were coming not too faithfully, but they would come pretty often. And I started to talk to them, and I started investing in their kids, and I started dropping off things for their kids, and I started telling him, hey, I'm praying for you, and do you need help with this? And I tried to be a Paul to him. And guess what happened? Same thing. God in return switched it, and now that guy gives me so much advice, just financially in different areas of my life, and he's really a Paul to me. He texts me when I don't come to church. Hey, are you okay? He's not on staff. Hey, are you okay? I'm praying for you. How are you doing? Every time I see him, are you doing okay? Are you doing good? You need anything? And he's a Paul to me. I wasn't looking for the Paul, but God gave me that Paul. And I think if we decide that we're going to care about others, if we decide that we're going to invest in others, people will start to invest in us. But if all we're looking for, like I said earlier, is just give me, give me, give me. Oh, how can I get it here? How can I get it here? You know what? If we're just doing that, God's not going to bless us with the Paul. But when you start forgetting about yourself, when you start caring about others, they'll care for you. The people that I know that have the most friends and people that I know that will drop and do anything for someone else are those type of people. If you're willing to drop everything you have going on to do something for someone else, you probably have 10 friends just like you that are willing to do the same thing for you. But if you're selfish, people are going to flee from you. If you're selfish and you're trying to, if every time you call someone is to get them to help you, guess what? They're going to start ignoring that phone call, right? But when I text people and I pray for them every day, whenever I need a favor and I ask them a favor, well, they're happy to do it for me because they know I actually care about them. It's not selfish. So I want to encourage you, be like Paul. Don't look for a Paul, but be like Paul. Be like Paul was when Paul was looking for the prison guard. Paul was looking for the lost. That number, and whether it's updated or not, let's get those numbers up. I'm glad that someone can say they saw me at Walmart lurking around, you know. I'm not some creeper, I'm witnessing to people, but I'm glad people see me out soul winning. My dad's soul winning so much, I go soul winning in Albuquerque, and I'll give someone a track and they'll say, oh yeah, Bob Daniel witnessed to me 15 years ago. They'll remember my dad's name from 15 years ago that he went out soul winning. You know, we need a lot of churches full of people that are looking for prison guards. We're looking for the lost. We're going to reach the lost. We're not saying that we are, but we're out there. Don't say you care about the lost, but show up and get on the bus or the van or whatever, or your car and drive to Walmart. If you're ever looking for people, there's always people at Walmart. Any given time, there's people at Walmart. Let's be a people that care about the lost. Let's be like Paul and care about the lost. Let's be like Paul and care about the church, the ministry. You say, well, I don't have a ministry that I'm meant to care about. Well, that's the problem. If you don't have a ministry, then find a ministry. There's plenty of ministries that anyone can do no matter what age you are. There's a ministry that you can be involved in and that you can care for and that you can invest in. Whether it's the bus ministry, whether it's the Sunday school class, whether it's an assistant to the Sunday school teacher, whatever it is, there's a ministry that you could be involved in and that you could care about. And if there's a ministry that's here that you don't like, that irritates you, get involved in that one and make a difference, right? If the bus kids annoy you, join that bus route and help them behave. Teach them how to behave. If the teens annoy you, sit with the teens and help them. Be a Paul to them. And then last one, find yourself a Philemon. Find yourself a person that you're going to invest in. I honestly believe that I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for people that invested in my life. You know, my parents split up when I was 12 years old. You know, that could have been the breaking point, right? And my dad and my mom, they did all they could to keep me in church and all that. But my mom and dad weren't the only people that got me where I am today. My pastor was not the only person. It was those lists of people in the time when I was growing up and I was making important decisions, that 6th, 7th, 8th grade time, when I'm becoming a teenager, when I could go with the wrong crowd or I could go with the right crowd. It was the laymen in the church that helped steer me the right way.
Hey.
And I give a lot of credit to my parents, and I do believe my parents helped me, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here, but I don't believe it was only them. I believe it was for a lot of church-going people that weren't paid by the church, that weren't staff members, that cared about me. And I promise you, when I saw Mila, that's exactly what I thought about. Man, all those people that cared about me when I was that age. You know, there's always that guy that carries around little mints in his pocket, gives them to the kid. Those are the kids those are the people that they're going to remember. Those kids that Mila gives that candy to, that Mila takes and talks to and loves on, those kids are never going to forget her. So if there's not kids around you, buy some candy, right? Buy some candy, you can be just like Mila. But care for someone, invest in someone, make a difference in someone else's life. Don't just think about yourself. Don't just go through your Christianity, all you're caring about is yourself. But try to be a Paul to someone. Because I know if you're like me, you need a Paul. As a 30-year-old man, I need a Paul in my life. I need a Paul in my life right now as much as I did when I was 10, when I was 12. And if you're not someone else's Paul, they don't have a Paul, you don't have a Paul, it's a lose-lose. But if you could be someone else's Paul, if you're looking at the church, I want to be everyone in my church's Paul. I want to give everyone a letter by the time, halfway through the year, I hope to have every single person in my church a letter. And I'm almost there. A home visit to everybody in my church. Every time I sit down in church and Julianne sees me, I'm writing down people's names that I haven't gone by their house yet. Because I want to be a Paul to those people. And the more and more I care about those people, it just seems like more and more people are caring about me. And it works that way, and God blesses. Let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus, I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak, Lord. I'm thankful for the